Good morning, everybody. This is Adam Gordon and Dr. Fred Cohen.
Hi there.
Oh, no, you're supposed to do your Dr. Fred thing.
Oh, no, I did that once.
A couple of times.
I don't have to do the same thing all the time. I'm a flexible individual.
Okay.
I saw a posting this morning on LinkedIn. Somebody was, the posting was that basically younger people are innovative, whereas older people are always entrenched in their old ideas. And they were asking for people's thoughts on it. And so naturally, my response was, it's called ageism. And then I clarified. I said, I think I said, to be clear, being old doesn't prevent you from having good ideas, and being young doesn't prevent you from, not being willing to change based on new information or something to that effect. So I said, hey, those weaknesses are not age related. Now, of course, there are factors in neural systems. So the way brains work, they don't have the same capabilities under all circumstances. So the claim is that people that are older make fewer neural connections, and that's true, except it turns out.
I'm sorry. I take that's not true. I take issue.
Well, hang on. It depends on activity, right? So it's like any other kind of exercise.
Right.
So but there are effects of aging, but there are also effects of use.
Yes.
And so the idea that somehow and very few people who are young have Alzheimer's, but so the misassociation of cause and effect is problematic in that context. All right. So in any case, this was completely unrelated to our topic today.
Our topic, which is how we help grow cybersecurity companies. We also take tangents. So
today, not our generic topic, our today topic.
Our today topic is how one would go about growing cybersecurity companies. And I've actually pulled up the website of actual competitor, and I wanted to compare strategies that we might employ to see how we might grow cybersecurity companies as opposed to how they might grow cybersecurity.
Right, we'll pop them up there, but
okay.
But I just want to point out that, like anything else, you need to put the proper seeds in the proper ground, and water and feed, and that's how you grow companies and plants and children.
And yes. This is how these guys, 55 and 5, I have no idea who they are. They came up on a Google search this morning while I was prepping for this show. And so here are the 5 points that they say are important for marketing cybersecurity companies.
So, I think I forwarded you a link or shared a link with you on LinkedIn about a company that was also in that space. So
yes.
Yeah. Is this they or is this somebody else?
This is somebody else entirely. Again, this was a random Google search this morning, as random as any Google search is these days.
Yeah. So we'll look at the content in a minute, but I always like to look at the people I'm dealing with, right? Mm-hmm. That is to say, who are these people and what are they going to do based on their context, right? Because people all operate in context. I do, you do, everybody does, right? So who are they? Where are they coming from, right? Are these people who have done this and they have a list of their clients? Are these people who have done this for other cybersecurity companies and help them grow and come to exit? Or are they marketing people who do lots of stuff and they think cybersecurity is the same, which it might or might not be? Is their advice specific or generic? And the same is true for us, right? And by the way, this is a website. So, a website is that place where you try to draw people in. They have nothing whatsoever to do with what you actually do or can do, right?
So let's take a quick look at context here. So this is an advertising agency, a marketing agency based in London and Seattle.
All right, wait. There's a difference between a marketing agency and an ad agency.
Yes, that's true. Although there's a lot of overlap, that's true.
But which is it? Is it an ad agency? They make their money by selling the ads and then they provide the marketing as free support, like in Mad Men?
This does not look like it. This looks like a company that specifically helps cybersecurity companies grow.
Well, you say that, but it's interesting because that's not what these things say, right? So scroll
Right.
up.
Yep.
Yeah. So it says we can improve your marketing. Technology companies doesn't say
Technology companies.
right? So it's all. It looks like it's all generic in terms of what they're saying so far. I mean, nothing says here cybersecurity. It says tech companies, and most cybersecurity companies are tech companies.
Yes.
And certainly there's tech involved in almost any business these days. But successful B2B marketing campaigns start with strategy and planning. So it's all generic.
Yes.
So everything here is generic. So do they do other things, or is 55 and 5 owned by the same people as 15 other websites, and this is just their cybersecurity play, or what is it?
Well, this is from their blog, and so this is as you can
This
see,
is one thing they talked about.
one thing they talked about.
Okay, so they've talked about lots of things. This is one of them.
This is one of them.
All right. So and they may be the best marketing strategy company in the world. I mean, I wouldn't know one way or the other. But this is just how you do this for cybersecurity. It's not the sole practice.
No, and they're also British. You can tell by the way they spell defenses.
Yeah, well, or else they could have a British spelling checker. But they are. If you scroll up to the top, they're in London and
Seattle.
Yeah. So clearly they're, and I'm going to use one of those. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I worked with a marketing guy from around London last year. He was very good. Brought lots of leads in to the Civ. So I thought it was a fabulous thing. And not always he was good at what he did, but he also took into account the stuff that I was doing. And between us, we figured out even better ways to do it than what he was getting for his statistics. So that's great.
Cool.
Okay. So
wait, a question: was he doing his stuff here?
Or no, he was doing it from Great Britain.
Well, yeah. Well, then you lose the advantage of having the British accent because everybody over there has it, of course. But
no.
People love people with British.
No, he was bringing in leads through LinkedIn. I mean, there's no
no accents at all, right?
Verbally, but it wasn't him out there, talking to people. It was him creating a campaign to bring in thousands of leads, not to bring in 5 potential customers to have conversations.
Okay.
Right. So scroll up to the list. What was the list again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Understanding your audience.
You definitely have to do it.
Gaining trust, showcasing expertise, creating a sense of urgency, and taking away the fear.
Okay. So understanding your audience, absolutely right. If you don't understand your audience, it's really hard to message them.
Yes.
Providing education, it's unclear. So there are many people, if you try to educate them, maybe you should educate them, but trying to educate them will get them pissed off at you. Because most cybersecurity companies think they know more than their customers about things, and most customers think that most cybersecurity companies don't know as much as they know about their things.
Yes.
So that's almost like the third rail, unless you're in the education business. Gaining trust, showcasing expertise. So in most cybersecurity companies, first of all, obviously, yes, if they don't trust you, they're probably not going to give you money.
More than likely.
But showcasing expertise is a tricky business. It's the same as the thing I talked about before. Cybersecurity expertise, there's a strong tendency of companies to claim expertise that doesn't match up with the customer's questions and their answers, right? So you got to be really careful about what expertise you claim and how you claim it, especially if you're going after enterprise customers, right? So, small and medium businesses, most of those people don't understand the issues as well as most cybersecurity company people, but they don't understand it as well as the guy that runs the PC repair shop either. But they're going to take anything you say, or they might take anything you say and take it to the local PC repair shop and see what those guys say. And those guys are likely to disagree, either out of ignorance or out of, desire to have, them get your business, or just for whatever reason. But gaining trust, absolutely. A sense of urgency. If you want to close a deal, you need to get somebody over the action threshold. So urgency is important, but but usually the way cybersecurity companies do this, and I don't necessarily agree with it, is they create the urgency surrounding fear. So the recent Iranian events between the US and Iran have created the image of cyber attacks, which people are claiming Iran is fabulous at. I'm not disputing the claim, I'm just telling what's happening in the marketplace. They're claiming that Iran's one of the top 5 in the world at this, I think was one of the quotes. And the intelligence folks have put out a warning on it, and they claim that Iran was responsible for the cyber attacks, maybe against what was it, Saudi Arabia oil company. But also they're claiming that at this point that Iran shot down the jet airliner, the commercial airliner that crashed. So
Right.
We'll see. It's all dubious what the claims are. But so that's creating a sense of urgency, or it's intended to create a sense of urgency and importance. And then 5, take away the fear. So most cybersecurity companies sell by fear, and I'm not a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to induce fear, that's urgency comes with fear. Taking away the fear, we've talked about this before. If you're not going to take away the fear, then all you have is scared people who will become unable to act or make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So it all makes some level of sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so screws on down here.
So now let me respond from a marketing perspective about this, is that this is a very generic plan. You could use this on a company that sells, electronic toilet seats. So I would argue that this is not necessarily a plan for solid cybersecurity marketing strategy. I would argue that this is a solid strategy for a whole bunch of different companies, and actually is somewhat misapplied here. And
all right, so just a question for you here.
Yeah.
So you mentioned toilet seats, electronic toilet seats, and is that where you're talking about the sense of urgency?
Ah, very good. I see what you did there, Fred.
So I like using shoelaces because, but yeah, I mean, it would work for shoelaces.
It would work for shoelaces.
These are the shoelaces you can trust.
Right.
You better get them now before your shoelaces break. And then you're in that meeting and your shoes are untied and you have to go under the table and retie your shoelaces and you look like an idiot.
Right.
But you don't have to be afraid. You can buy our new steel shoelaces. They won't give away no matter what.
That are
put out of the shoe, but man, they're awesome.
And they're internet connected, and through our app, you will know whether they are tied or untied, and we store all of that in blockchain.
It'll through the cloud. It'll predict when they will become untied because of their level of looseness.
And then we'll send you an alert.
Hey, we got to start a business. This is a security company. We're securing your shoelaces.
There you go.
Against Iranian cyber attacks.
Very much so.
We've done that. We've created a sense of urgency. We've taken away the fear. We've showcased our expertise.
Provided a valuable service, and we're generating.
Provided the education that you never knew that your shoelaces were going to come untied because of Iranian attack. And obviously, we've understood our audience. All right, well, we may have missed on that.
And we've generated 4 petabytes of data in the last year that's now worth 10 times what the company's actually worth.
So they say.
All right. So my other thought about this is, and this is just a personal bug of mine, I think personas are terrible ways to do marketing. I think what it does, all they prove to do is limit your thinking, because they become who you think you're actually marketing to, and people forget that the map is not the territory.
So
you're much more effective.
Marketing people actually create phony, emulated versions of their customers?
That's what a persona is.
No, I know what a persona is, but I'm asking you, is this actually what marketing companies do?
This is one of the things this company would do for you, yes, is create personas for you.
Not this company. Is this a common thing in marketing?
Oh, yes, very much so. Since the advent of inbound marketing, personas have been the kind of de rigueur strategy of every marketing company.
Oh, so this is what drives that sales process that you were talking about?
They think. They claim.
So this is why they're driving them through their process instead of letting the customer find the answer that they want.
Right. instead
because
of
they've
letting
created a
customer wander.
persona in their mind about what the customer is, and they're going to force that customer to be that thing.
Right. They're going to figure out exactly what their needs are and put that in front of them and drive them down their sales funnel.
Oh God.
And,
Okay, that's what must have been happening. So
yeah. And
I was asked to join an angel group,
mhm.
Space Angels or whatever, and they sent
That's a great name.
huh?
That's a great name.
Well, no, it's people investing in stuff to go into outer space. But
I understand. That's why it's
well,
a
no,
great
it could
name.
be Space Angels. People trying to sell office space. It's completely different. But that would be Office Space Angels.
And their last name would be Newman.
Yeah, but so with they have this form that you're supposed to fill out. So they fill it out, and they're asking questions that are all the questions for, are you an accredited investor? And I recognize that. But they're not asking, do you make $200,000 a year or $300,000 between you and your spouse for the last 2 years and expected this year, or have $1 million in assets, which is what it is to be an accredited investor. They're asking, what's your income? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my view of this is that's a little bit of personal information, and I'm not going to tell you how much money I made last year. It's none of your damn business.
Mm-hmm.
So you get through it, and so you get through those questions, and I gave them answers that met the thresholds, but that didn't actually tell the truth, because if they're trying to get my personal information, I'm going to lie to them, but only to the extent that I'm being honest in context, in the sense of I meet the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, you go into another page, and the next page is asking even more details. At which point I said, I'm just not going any further in the form, and I sent them an email and said, your page is abusive. I got an email back from them saying, why didn't you continue? You almost finished the forms. Why didn't you continue? And so now this was separate from the person I emailed about it. So the person said, why aren't you continuing? Which means they were tracking all of the subforms that I filled out.
Right.
So they have all that information on me. And I said, it's invasive and it's inappropriate. And I'm not going to be answering personal questions, beyond the things required, legally. And they tried once or twice more, and I just said no. So that's what they were probably trying to do. They thought that I was one of those people that's sort of wealthy and trying to brag about how much of whatever I do and so forth.
Wealthy and stupid?
Well, bragging.
Okay. Wealthy and bragging.
Right. You can be smart and brag. It's not.
Yes.
Not exclusive. But now I think that they were successful in differentiating me from the people they want. So in fact, they were probably looking for something that's not me. And that's fine. But that looks like they had a persona in mind, a personality that they were looking for. And they were using their questions to differentiate whether I was a personality that would be one they want in this group.
Right. Taking your time to do that.
Oh, and of course.
Yeah.
And my confidential information, which is part of
your
this.
Confidential. And the other problem I have with personas is that it's just the wrong metaphor for what happens. It's like looking at a frame of Gone with the Wind and asking somebody to tell you the story of the movie. So what I think marketers need is a better metaphor than this. And my metaphor is because I'm a storyteller, is a narrative. And really what you're trying to do is influence people's narratives. And if you start thinking about it that way, you start actually accessing the way people actually do buy things, the way they explore and experiment and feel things and try it on and try it off and yada, yada. And that's a narrative. And what you're trying to do in marketing, at least, is to influence that. And I think that the whole metaphor for personas, just take it out of that context entirely. And all you have is a snapshot and you're trying to sell to that person. I think that's really hard.
Explain that in a little bit more depth, because what you're saying essentially is a persona is a state of a person at a given time, or a personality characteristics, as opposed to the story that they're telling themselves right now or something?
Exactly. It's a snapshot.
So how do you do that? How do you diagnose? So, when you talk about these sales processes, what's his name? Nathan Beckford, or, the guy, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
He sells these. And he says basically the way you close a sale is they need to trust you. They need to trust the company. and they need to believe, that they want to do it.
Right.
And you cycle through that. You diagnose what they're not getting, and you address that. You take forward-looking statements and apply them, and you get them to close.
Mm-hmm.
And which maybe it works, and I'm sure it does to some extent.
Obviously did for him.
Well, no, I mean, so they sell these to lots of people, and I learned by listening to what he said and looking at his tapes and so forth. But how do you create that? That's a process, right? That's a process where you diagnose what is not getting them over that threshold, the action threshold, and you address it to get them over the threshold. So, how are you going to do that? And personas, of course, don't do that either. But how does your narrative approach undertake to do that? How do you get that feedback?
Well, what we hope to do is, in a narrative approach, what you would hope to do is to understand what are the influences that are driving a group of people, a type of people to you. And you might start with a couple personas once you understand who the buying audiences are or is. But then you need to figure out what's common in the stories that are bringing them to you, and what you can do to influence those, and where are the points at which you can influence them. So rather than building a model that's static, like they gave with you, where you had to go through their whole process in order to do it because they were looking for a certain persona. But in a couple of questions, I bet I could have asked and gotten exactly the same information, taken a lot less of your time, and had it be a lot less painful, because I would understand where you were coming from and what the narrative was that you were a part of.
So let's spend it. I know we're sort of long on time, but that's all right. We'll keep going. So walk me through an example. So I think there are lots of different people in cybersecurity, right? A lot of different people come from different places. The classic is the executive comes up from the executive chain, from the management chain, or from the technology chain. And of course, they're completely different, and they're each missing a big chunk of the other and have to learn it. Mm-hmm. So you can think of those as two different personae, but my personal experience is that you get all sorts of different people.
You do.
And it's not a personality issue. The narratives that are driving them are business narratives. They want to keep their job, and stuff's going on.
Right. Well, in a B2B environment, certainly that's true.
And I think we're talking largely B2B. B2C is a very different
animal. Yep. Yeah. And exactly, that's exactly the point. Is when you start looking at personas, you start limiting the actions that you allow your customers to take, and that, I think, is just a bad strategy.
Let's get back to the narrative. So give me an example of a narrative for the executive. Presumably the narrative is these technical people are giving me what's probably bullshit, and I need to get this thing done and done right, or I'll lose my job. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to personally do it. My people are going to do it. So how does that produce a narrative that's different, for example, from the narrative of I'm a geek and I've decided I want this technical thing because it'll make me better at what I do.
So, and I think that's a great example, Fred. I mean, look at the two different sets of influencers on both of those people. I mean, one is being driven by their own desire and what they want, and they think it's interesting. And so they're going to ask a whole different set of questions than is the guy who his job's on the line. He needs to get a solution done this quarter or this month or whatever this is. And he's going to have a much different agenda and a much different need to cycle through all of that than the other person is. And if all you do is you address the personas, you're just going to provide information differently. And what I suggest is that what you allow people to do is figure out a way, and there's a lot of interface design in this, and it actually takes a lot of thinking, is to let people wander through your data and pick out the points that they want, and then let them usher themselves through the sales funnel. Because I think that's a much more efficient way of doing things than forcing them through a certain sequence based on who you think they are. So rather than treat them as a model of somebody and you need information, allow them to interact with you and play, I think is an important aspect here, and do something that's more comfortable for them while also getting through your sales funnel, or as we like to call it, your sales sieve.
So now you talk about that, but I'm just going to use Angel to Exit as an example.
Sure.
It's not a cybersecurity company. We have cybersecurity companies. By the way, that the cybersecurity companies that I run, none of this marketing is automated. None of it. The website is almost irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about creating and having a personal relationship with people and helping them address their needs. And it takes a long time, and you build that up. And as an effect, a consequence of that, and it has to do with what I'm selling them. And selling is the wrong word. I'm not really selling them things. I'm working with them to help them succeed and getting remunerated for it. The tendency is they tend to be deals that are at least in the $50,000 to $1 million range, and you tend to start something that ends up lasting 5, 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the character. And I wasn't driving towards that characteristic. That's just what worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way to do that I can imagine on a website. But Angel to Exit is more the sieve type of business, right?
Right.
We take in hundreds of applicants, and they self-select based on the information we provide, and we provide them lots of information for them to roam through is not the right word, but to review and see and learn and so forth. But we're trying to drive them into that pitch, that first presentation,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's well-defined. It's a systematic process. We know what we're doing. We're taking metrics. We're doing, analysis. And we're looking for people that, not the individual personalities, but businesses that meet various criteria to take them from step to step to step. And we're not going to form an advisory board for somebody until they've gone through a presentation. It's not that we couldn't or wouldn't, but it just doesn't happen that way. We need to have our group of angel advisors look at them and understand them and have that hour follow-on call, and then start looking at the contract issues and so forth. And we don't want to spend 6 months negotiating a deal with an early stage company and then spend the next year working with them. We want to get there in a reasonable amount of time answering their questions, but we have lots of stuff that we provide to them, and we can explain it to them and answer their questions, but it's much more of a sales sort of business.
Mm-hmm.
So these different kinds of businesses, I don't know how you would systematically advise somebody like that website you had. Here's the 5 things that you do to get this storytelling, the narrative sale closed, right? It's not that, right?
Right.
So what is it? This is something that you develop, very specifically, but it can't be generic, right? Or can it?
Well, there are absolutely parts that are somewhat generic. However, in a lot of cases, because you've got companies that have a lot of data and a lot of things that they want to educate people on, and a lot of different types of people coming, it requires a fair amount of thinking and design in order to put it together well. It does. It's a lot of work. Doing personas is a lot of work. I know I've built enough in my time, and I've seen them work and not work. And this is just what I've come to, is that it's a model that has not enough nuance to it to really, it maybe made things better at the time when people just, were marketing to everybody. And I think the pendulum has just swung a little bit too far in that direction. And what you end up with are sales funnels with a lot of friction in them, as opposed to sales funnels that people can wander through, go down, and pretty much just get themselves down to the bottom, and then ask for help when they need it and get what's appropriate to their context.
Well, be more specific when you talk about this friction. Give us some examples.
Well, for an example, Your example is perfect. I mean, they
No,
make.
no, not my example. An example from some other client somewhere.
Okay. So what other example can I give you about this? So one of the things that HubSpot does, for instance, is they tend to have people think of personas and sales processes. And what they want you to do is to create a structured environment such that you understand what the sales process is, you know what information is needed at every given stage, and you supply that based on that limited set of data.
Right. Show us HubSpot. Bring that up so we understand what you're talking about.
Sure.
Presumably their site will reflect this.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting. I haven't looked at them for a
Maybe they
while,
use
so
their
we'll see. Well, sort of at a very high level, yes, this is what they're talking about.
So they're going to drive me through.
Exactly.
Well, the first thing they say is get it for free, and then we'll charge you later. Right?
Right, exactly. Get it for free for the 1 or 2 tools that we'll give you. And you know, these guys are starting to, I think, approach this kind of thinking where you see, because good for the business should also mean good for the customer. That's starting to get there. And that'd be interesting to have a conversation with the bot. So
you can talk to the bot?
Well, apparently, well, it just popped up a window on my screen.
Oh, well, okay. Let's ask it a question.
Okay.
How do I get rid of the bot on my screen so I can read your site? Ask it. Come on.
Okay.
It's a bot.
Oh, you know what? It won't let me.
Oh, you can't ask it?
No. It says write a message, but I can't actually do anything.
Perfect.
But I can add free live chat to my site.
Oh, can you learn about products?
I guess I could do one of these.
Oh, so now you can ask a question.
No, nope, still can't add it. Nope. See, they're making me go down here.
It's a friggin' menu system that looks like a bot.
Right, exactly. And okay. This is a perfect example of my point. It's like,
yeah, they're driving me through their list of questions instead of
showing me what's available and letting me discover it. You don't know what I want, and don't assume that you do. Please let me figure it out on my own. And you know, maybe there are some people who want to structure like this. So one of the things I do a lot with interface designers these days is figure out how to make interfaces like this a little bit more flexible, a little bit more responsive, not like responsive to large and big screens, but responsive to the user and what the user
needs. So go to all.net.
I knew we would get there next.
We had to.
Yes.
All right, down on the left-hand corner under database.
Mm-hmm.
Selecting database, select made, or
made.
Cracking is
cracking.
Yeah, the cracking game. Hit go. Okay, that's what that reminds me of. It's
right,
okay.
and this is
the cracking game. Oh, go directly to the target from your home or office. Go ahead, let's see what happens.
Well, what happens? Befriend or get into a relationship. This always works.
Yeah, read what it says now.
You befriend a less than fantastic looking employer and in bed with them in less than a week. It must be your magnetic personality. Unfortunately, you soon find out this employee has AIDS and didn't tell you because they didn't want you to lose the chance of loving a person as wonderful as you. You are now in deep, deep trouble. And with that, folks, I think we're going to end this session of.
You can read the rest. But that's my point. Is it reminds me of just driving you through a set of scenarios. And this technology, I believe this was first operating in the 1970s.
Yeah, well, when you wrote this back in the 70s, right?
Well, whenever I wrote it,
yeah.
My point is, so this is the webified version of it, but it's the same bloody thing. So if I put it in a chat bot, it doesn't change anything.
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Just ridiculous.
And it's just a thing. And so we're going to give Thoughtful Toys a quick
promo
here just because I like it so much. And
PS&T department.
This has been Adam Gordon and Fred Cohen doing another OSG podcast. We help grow cybersecurity We help grow cybersecurity companies when we can talk about it. And have a good week, everybody.
All right, have fun.